If you played Murder Mystery 2, you may think that all custom skins are just cosmetic, and while that's true for the most part, there are a handful of skins that have unique properties to them, like how Turkey Knife has a rare chance of having a bite taken out of it, or how Gingerblade gets thrown across the room like a full-on Beyblade. Which, by the way, Nicholas, why did you fix that? That was actually such a cool bug. But here's the thing, none of these weapons are hated whatsoever, so when I tell you that Ghost Knife also has a special property, you might expect it to have the same treatment as the other special knives, right?
Wrong!
Well, what if I told you that this special property that made the knife so hated in the MM2 community to the point where it was almost never used was the exact same reason why it eventually became one of the most loved and sought after weapons in the entire game? That might sound crazy, but that's actually what today's video is about. My name is PlayTested, and today I will be showing you how the Ghost Knife went from being the most hated weapon in the game to one of the most loved in a short amount of time. So how was Ghost Knife even obtained in the first place? To answer this, we need to go all the way back to Murder Mystery 1. Murder Mystery 1 had a very different weapon system than what we have today. Firstly, let's get this out of the way. MM1 had no boxes, so you couldn't even unbox anything. So how in the world did you actually obtain weapons? First, let's address a common misconception. There were no coins in MM1. For some reason, some wiki pages and value lists say that these old weapons were obtained with coins, but that is just false. I played during this era, and instead of coins, there was points that you could earn through rounds and cash that you could buy with Robux. You would earn around 10 points for every time you survived as an innocent, won as a sheriff, or killed somebody as a murderer. You would also receive some player points along with it, which was an old Roblox concept back in 2014. Once you've gathered enough points, you could then buy some of these weapons from the shop. Like I said before, there were no boxes, so you were guaranteed whatever weapon that you bought. Ghost Knife was one of the cheaper weapons that you could buy with points, with you only needing about 1,200 of them. Also on the topic of MM1, it would only be fair to tell you now about its other special perk that only stayed in MM1, one that honestly should have made this knife loved. Back in MM1, some weapons had special powers, and while Ghost Knife's special power was that it could actually throw faster than other knives, almost like the modern day sleight power that's in the game. So despite it being small, it would actually give the murderer an advantage to give other players less reaction time to dodge a knife, and that's why most people bought it. So if Ghost Knife had powers that actually helped the murderer out, then why was Ghost Knife still hated? You might think that people just didn't like how small it was, and while yeah, it is the smallest knife in the game, there was something else about it that makes the cons of using this knife fully outweigh the pros 5 times over. In MM2, the knife you hold doesn't actually have collision until it's thrown, which is why you're able to go against the wall while you're holding the knife, and your knife just kinda goes through the wall with no issues. However, with Ghost Knife, this collision is always active even if you aren't throwing the knife. Even if you're not actually holding the knife, Ghost Knife on your side still has its collision enabled. This wasn't always the case for Ghost Knife, but I will get to that a little bit later in the video. Point is, the collision is always active when you have the Ghost Knife equipped, no matter what. So you might be thinking, PlayTested, how is this even an issue? Well, you know how I said that normal knives could be held through walls without any issues? It's because since normally collision is off, you don't really have to worry about your knife getting stuck on things like walls or tables when you try to move. But since Ghost Knife does have collision, let's just say that it makes movement a bit more difficult, pretty much. Because of how terrible an experience this knife made the game, everyone either never even thought about using it or just gave it away completely. In fact, at the time, this knife was one of the worst valued vintage items, and that's saying a lot since vintage items aren't really valued much anyways. Before we get into the next part of the video, I quickly want to say that if you're enjoying the video so far, to please make sure to subscribe or boost the video however you can. It truly helps you more than you know, and it gets us closer to our goal of reaching 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. With that being said, let's get back into the video. So Ghost Knife was pretty much hated by everyone in the community because its collision was always enabled. But what if I told you that the same reason why it was hated so much was the same reason why it became so loved? Well, it's finally time for me to introduce you to a little known technique called ghost flinging. Now, I'm no glitch expert, I only know how collisions work, and that's why I asked 2 of the best glitch nerds to help me out with this segment. Please welcome Heatzee and FearUnique. So before I get both of them to help me explain a little bit more about ghost flinging, let me first explain to you what it even is and why it even works in the first place. Here's how ghost flinging works. Remember how I said that ghost knife always has collision even when you don't have it equipped? Well, if you put the knife up against two surfaces at an angle like a fence right here and jump, you're actually able to get your character to fling upwards like this. So why does this even work in the first place? Let's look at this on a simpler level. Imagine you have a ceiling like this, with your avatar placed under it. Since your torso and the ceiling have collision, it makes it so if you try to jump, your torso will go a tiny bit through the ceiling, but it will never actually fully go through it. Now, what if we place our avatar like this, with one side having the ceiling above it, and the other side not having the ceiling above it? From what I can understand, if you spam jump here, your character's hitbox will be hitting the corner of the ceiling, since the other side doesn't have a ceiling. And since your character will never actually go through the ceiling, your character will tilt slightly, making your hitbox turn into a slope almost. It's pretty much the same concept with Ghost Knife, except that the Ghost Knife is acting as your avatar and the surface is acting as the ceiling. So let's explain how this glitch gained popularity. Heatzee tells us that he first discovered this glitch on September 9th, 2023, and a few days later, began showing the glitch to many content creators such as WS10 and FearUnique. WS10 eventually made a tutorial about how to do it, and because of the easy nature of this glitch, made many want to try to replicate it. I asked FearUnique if there was anything else that gave the glitch more popularity, and he directly cited Heatzee's video on where he's able to fling himself in such a way that he actually gets flung back into the MM2 lobby. And to be honest, I 100% agree that this has something to do with Ghost Knife's popularity. I mean, look at these views. But ghost flinging wasn't the only glitch that came along with Ghost Knife. Both Heatzee and FearUnique told me that some of their other popular glitches were double jumping, infinite jumping, and instantly clipping through certain walls, all using the Ghost Knife in some way. So, Ghost Knife had finally redeemed itself. But wait a second, wasn't Ghost Knife one of the lowest valued vintage items? It had to have increased in value after these glitches using Ghost Knife was discovered, right? Well, you're absolutely right. As of now, Ghost Knife is now the most valued vintage item, and it's the only vintage item that has ever had a doing well stability rating. I asked FearUnique and Heatzee if they thought the discovery of the ghost flinging and other glitches was the cause of the sudden spike in Ghost Knife's value. FearUnique says that he believes people only wanted Ghost Knife just to fling around the map, but not to fling instantly or infinite jump. While Heatzee argues that people want Ghost Knife because of the actual special properties of the knife, with it being the only knife in the game that actually has collision enabled, which is actually a pretty interesting take. Before we head into the outro, there's a fun fact that I was told by Heatzee during the making of this video. Remember how I said earlier that Ghost Knife wasn't always like this? Well, this is the explanation to that. For this, we need to go all the way back to the day that the Plasma Bundle was released. Now, the Plasma Bundle being released wasn't anything crazy, especially because it doesn't even look that good. But a certain bug that came along with the release of the bundle was crazy. For some reason, when the Plasma Bundle got released during July of 2022, every single gun and knife had their collision enabled on accident. That's right, every single weapon. Luckily, Nicholas had put out a patch to fix this bug on the same day, so every single weapon that had their collision enabled had it disabled again. Besides Ghost Knife. Yeah, for some reason Nicholas released this patch, he actually forgot to change Ghost Knife's collision again, and it never actually got fixed. So ever since July 2022, Ghost Knife had always had its collision active. And that's how Ghost Knife went from being one of the most hated MM2 weapons to being one of the most loved and sought after. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, or subscribe and turn on post notifications so you get notified whenever I post or stream. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.